Russia and China have just announced a landmark aviation deal. Russia's United Engine Corporation will supply advanced jet engines for China's C919 passenger aircraft. This move directly challenges Western dominance in aerospace and has alarmed EU officials, who see it as undermining sanctions and creating a powerful new competitor. The timing, just before the new year, is seen as a calculated maneuver, catching Western governments off guard. The European Commission's reaction was swift, calling the deal a grave concern that could destabilize the global aviation landscape. This partnership gives Russian technology a backdoor into the commercial market, sidestepping restrictions imposed after the Ukraine conflict. The EU now faces the tough task of responding firmly without escalating tensions further. For years, Europe tried to isolate Russia economically and technologically. This deal strikes at the heart of that strategy. The C919, powered by Russian engines, could become a symbol of a new axis of influence, reducing both nations' dependence on Western technology. Aviation stocks in Europe dipped as investors processed the news, highlighting the deal's immediate impact. The EU must now decide if sanctions are still an effective tool when China is willing to fill the void. The decisions made in Brussels in the coming weeks will have lasting consequences for Europe's aviation industry and global standing. The game has changed, and the EU is now on the defensive. The COMAC C919 is China's bold attempt to break the Airbus-Boeing duopoly in commercial aviation. Designed to rival the A320 and 737, the C919 is a centerpiece of China's push for technological self-sufficiency and global influence. Until now, the C919 relied on the LEAP engine from a US-French joint venture, making it vulnerable to trade disputes and sanctions. Beijing has long sought a non-Western engine to secure its aviation ambitions. The C919 is more than an industrial project. It's a strategic imperative under the Made in China 2025 initiative. Success would reduce China's dependence on foreign aircraft and showcase its engineering prowess. However, the program has faced delays, especially with engine development. China's own CJ1000A engine is still years from commercial readiness, leaving the C919 dependent on Western partners. The new Russian deal offers a shortcut to independence, potentially transforming the C919 into a truly homegrown competitor. A successful C919 with a non-Western engine would be a powerful symbol of China's rise. It would show the world that China can compete in the most advanced fields of engineering. The Russian partnership could be the breakthrough Beijing has been waiting for. Russia's involvement in the C919 program is a game-changer. The deal brings Russia's PD-14 engine, a modern, non-Western alternative, into the picture, giving China a ready-to-produce, sanction-proof option. For Russia, this is both an economic and political win, opening a vast new market and demonstrating resilience against Western sanctions. The partnership allows COMAC to market the C919 as a safe investment for countries wary of Western political disputes. Airlines in Africa, Asia, and Latin America may now see the C919 as a risk-free alternative to Airbus and Boeing. This unique selling point could shift the dynamics of global aircraft sales. Integrating a Russian engine will require engineering work and new certification, but both nations are motivated to make it succeed. For China, it's the key to unlocking the C919's full potential. For Russia, it's a chance to reassert itself in global aerospace. The collaboration could lead to further joint ventures, challenging the West's technological supremacy. A new bloc is emerging in the skies. The EU's response has been swift and severe, condemning the deal as a blatant circumvention of sanctions against Russia. By supplying engines to China, Russia's sanctioned engine maker gains a crucial financial lifeline, undermining EU foreign policy. The C919, now with a Russian engine and Chinese state backing, is seen as a subsidized threat to Europe's aviation industry. EU officials argue that COMAC benefits from state support, allowing it to undercut Western competitors. There's also deep concern about the security implications of a Russia-China alliance in aerospace. The partnership could lead to joint military technology development and greater geopolitical coordination. In response, the EU is considering regulatory and legal actions, including making ESA certification for the C919 with a Russian engine extremely difficult. This could lock the C919 out of Europe, but risks retaliation from Beijing. The EU faces a delicate balancing act: protect its industry without provoking a damaging trade war. The aviation battlefield is now as much about politics as it is about planes. For decades, Airbus and Boeing have dominated the skies, shaping the entire aviation ecosystem. The Russia-China engine deal is the biggest threat to this duopoly in a generation. With a non-Western engine, the C919 becomes a credible global competitor, especially in emerging markets. Airbus faces direct pressure on its A320 line, potentially forcing price cuts and squeezing profits. Boeing, too, risks losing market share, especially in China, one of its largest markets. The C919's rise could trigger a price war, disrupt supply chains, and force Western suppliers to compete with new Russian and Chinese alternatives. The industry's structure, built around two giants, must now adapt to a powerful new force from the East. Political tensions add complexity, as Beijing could favor the C919 over Boeing for domestic orders. The comfortable era of predictable stability is ending. Airlines may benefit from lower prices, but uncertainty looms. The duopoly's grip on global aviation is slipping. The Russo-Chinese deal's economic impact ripples far beyond Airbus headquarters. Europe's aerospace sector is a vast network of suppliers and skilled workers now facing an unprecedented threat. A decline in Airbus's market share could trigger job losses and hit local economies across France, Germany, Spain, and the UK. The sector is a pillar of high-skilled employment and a major contributor to Europe's trade surplus. A successful C919 would eat into export revenues and erode Europe's technological edge. Political fallout is likely, with member states divided between protectionism and maintaining trade ties with China. Achieving a united EU response will be a major challenge. The risk: a fragmented Europe facing a powerful new rival. Analysts agree, the EU can't afford to stand by. The first line of defense will be regulatory. ESA could delay or block the Russian-powered C919's entry into Europe. Diplomatically, the EU may file a WTO complaint over illegal state subsidies and rally allies to stick with Western aircraft. Economic countermeasures could include tariffs or activating anti-coercion tools if China is found to be engaging in unfair practices. The EU may also boost investment in Airbus R&D, aiming for a technological leap to outpace the C919. But a confrontational approach carries risks. China is both a competitor and a vital market. Aggressive EU moves could trigger swift retaliation from Beijing, harming European companies. Brussels must balance strength with caution to avoid a damaging trade war. The EU's unity and resolve will be tested as never before. The stakes for Europe's future in aviation are enormous. The Russia-China C919 engine deal is a symbol of a shifting global power balance. It marks the rise of a new technological axis willing to challenge decades of Western dominance. This partnership could accelerate the fragmentation of the global economy into competing blocs. Countries may soon have to choose between Western and Eastern aviation ecosystems. The seamless, globalized aviation network could fracture along geopolitical lines. For the EU, this is a fundamental strategic challenge, forcing it to become more assertive and protectionist. The West's ability to use aviation as a tool of foreign policy is now at risk. If viable alternatives exist, Western leverage diminishes. The deal is about more than breaking the Airbus-Boeing duopoly. It's about breaking the West's monopoly on global power. The skies are now a new arena for great power competition. The rules are being rewritten before our eyes. Russia's engine deal for China's C919 is a watershed moment for global aviation and geopolitics. The EU's furious reaction is understandable. The deal undermines sanctions, creates a new competitor, and cements a powerful Eastern alliance. The era of a comfortable duopoly is over. A more complex, contentious chapter has begun. The EU must defend its industry and sanctions without triggering a trade war. The likely response: regulatory hurdles, legal challenges, and investment in next-gen aviation tech. For the world, this deal signals a new era of competition and fragmentation. The C919, powered by a Russian engine, is a symbol of a rising Eastern bloc. The future of aviation and global power will be decided by those who can innovate and adapt in these uncharted skies.